Welcome to No Sleep, where the night never ends, and every whisper in the dark could be something real. Tonight's story isn't just horror. It's a memory, a warning, a door that should have stayed closed. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and whatever you do, don't fall asleep. I used to think the internet was endless, a vast universe filled with memes, games, and escapism, a place where you could be anyone, see anything, do anything. But I didn't know there was a line, a boundary you're not meant to cross. Not because it's forbidden, but because once you step over it, there's no it started. After my parents uprooted our lives and moved us from a quiet New England suburb to a remote, sleepy town in the Northwest, I had no friends. No warning. One night, we just packed up and left. They said it was because of a string of unsolved crimes. Murders, mostly. But something about the way they said it, tense, cold, mechanical, didn't sit right. My mother, usually all warmth and chatter, barely spoke. My father, a man of routine and order, seemed distracted, constantly checking his phone, locking the doors 3, sometimes 4 times before bed. We moved into a dull, 2-story house at the end of a cul-de-sac, all beige siding and dead flower beds. I hated it instantly. But that's where I met Alex. The only goo, Alex was the kind of kid who always had one eye on a screen and the other on your soul. He didn't talk much unless it was about computers or the internet, not YouTube or Instagram. That was beneath him. He was deep into encryption, coding forums, servers that didn't officially exist. One day, during lunch, he leaned over and whispered like a conspirant, "Ever heard of the dark web?" I laughed. "You mean like Silk Road and Hitmen? Urban legends?" He just grinned. "No, it's real. And it's not what you think. It's worse." I should have known better than to follow him down that rabbit hole. But I was 16, bored and starved for adrenaline. So the next time I visited his place, we locked his bedroom door, fired up his ancient, humming desktop, and loaded up the Tor browser. He had a VPN that bounced signals through Romania and Argentina. His digital footprints were erased before he even took them. We didn't find anything sinister at first, just hidden forums, bizarre conspiracy boards, black market listings for fake passports, and stolen PayPal accounts. But the deeper we dug, the darker it got. One site was a silent auction for organs, human organs. Another was a live stream, masked participants chanting in Latin over what looked like a pig's carcass. I hoped it was a pig. Weeks passed. Our bond grew stronger, anchored by the thrill of digital trespassing. I was hooked, not just to the mystery, but to the escape. My home was a cold, distant place. My parents worked odd hours. Some nights I'd hear them whispering in the garage, long past midnight. The next morning, their smiles were hollow, their eyes exhausted. Then, one night, I came home and found my father in my room, just standing there, in the dark. I froze. "I was just checking your outlets," he said calmly, stepping out. He never checked anything in my room before. And never at 2 a.m., I told Alex the next day. He brushed it off. "He's probably just worried about you. You've been glued to your laptop." Maybe. But I didn't feel watched. I felt assessed. Alex, meanwhile, was diving deeper. He became obsessed with searching people. Not celebrities or politicians, but normal folks. Names from obituaries, Reddit usernames, even people he knew in real life, He called it digital ghost hunting. "It's crazy what you can find," he said once, staring into his screen like it was a portal to another world. I asked him why he did it. Because I want to understand what people hide when they think no one's looking. He started sleeping less, missing school. His texts became erratic. One day, he messaged me at 3 a.m. "Some names bring up more than you expect." I thought it was just another rabbit hole. But then something changed. It was a Monday when he didn't show up to school. No texts, no calls. I figured he pulled another all-nighter and crashed. But by noon, the rumors had already started. "Did you hear? Some kid's missing. Cops outside his house." I sprinted there after class. 4 squad cars, yellow tape, his mother sobbing in the driveway. "He was just upstairs," she cried to one of the officers. "He was right there." Then he wasn't. When she saw me, she grabbed my hand like I was her only anchor in the world. "You were his best friend," she said, her voice shaking. "Did he say anything to you? Anything strange?" I didn't know what to say. That he'd been scouring the underworld of the internet? That he'd been digging up people's secrets for fun? So I said nothing, just that I'd try to help. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. No sign of struggle, no broken glass. But his room was untouched. His chair still swiveled from his last session. His computer still glowed faintly in the dark. And on the desk, his last search still lingered on screen. A single word. My last name. The word on the screen pulsed like a heartbeat. My last name. I stared at it, not fully understanding, not wanting to understand. Why was Alex, my best friend, searching me before he vanished? I stepped closer to the screen, the blue glow soaking my skin. The cursor blinked at the end of the typed name, as if inviting me to go further. Everything in me screamed to shut the computer down, to walk away, to let the police handle it. But they wouldn't understand. They didn't know Alex like I did. They wouldn't dig where they were supposed to dig. So I sat down. The monitor was already open to his dark web browser. Dozens of tabs sat at the top, their titles either scrambled in symbols or short fragments that hinted at horror. Scarlet Room 47, Clean Cuts, Acid, Bath Log, Archive of Flesh. My hands trembled as I clicked the first one. It was an old news article, scanned from a print-only local paper. The headline was brutal. Woman's body dissolved in acid. Killer still at large. I didn't want to read the details, but I did. She'd been strapped down, her body carved with surgical precision, and then submerged in a corrosive solution until her flesh melted away from her bones. My stomach twisted. The article said the case was over a decade old, cold, forgotten, except Alex had dug it up. The next tab was worse. The basement room case. A man had been filmed being slowly tortured over 48 hours. The article described each agonizing moment. Some screenshots were included. Low resolution, black and white, yet viscerally real. I forced myself to look. Why was Alex watching this stuff? One by one, I clicked through the tabs. Everyone featured a murder. Gruesome, specific, all local. Some names I vaguely remembered. Victims mentioned in passing during hushed family dinners when I was younger. Others were new. But one article stopped me cold. Local teacher found butchered in apartment. Neighbor claims strange behavior from nearby teen. I knew this one. The victim had lived next door to us 2 years ago. The woman with the heart-shaped tattoo on her neck. I remembered how she used to wave at me when she watered her garden. I remembered how, one day, she just vanished. My parents had told me she moved away suddenly. That night, we packed up and moved too. Back then, I thought nothing of it. Coincidence. Adults doing adult things. Now, I knew better. I scrolled down. At the bottom of the article, highlighted in red by Alex's mouse, was a line that hit me like a hammer. Police believe the killer may have known the victim personally. Multiple fingerprints were recovered, but never matched to any known record. I leaned back, heart pounding. This wasn't random curiosity. Alex had been investigating, and then I saw it. The browser history. Alex hadn't cleared it. Dozens of searches with one thing in common: my parents' names. He had searched their full names, employment records, tax ID numbers, DMV registrations, and then finally, my last name. I swallowed hard. This wasn't some edgy dive into the underbelly of the internet. This was deliberate, calculated. Alex had followed a trail, and it led straight to my family. I backed out of the browser and opened a folder on the desktop named Project 7. Inside were documents, screenshots, even audio files. One folder was titled Cross-Referenced Crimes. Another simply read, They move after every kill. There were dates, addresses, newspaper scans, all tied together with lines and red text annotations, a detective's board in digital form. And it all pointed to one conclusion. Every time my family moved, a murder happened just before. One town in Ohio, another in Florida, then that place in Massachusetts where we'd lived last, where the neighbor disappeared, where Alex first met me. No, it couldn't be true, could it? In that moment, I wanted to scream, to destroy the computer, to erase everything and pretend it never happened. But I couldn't, because then I saw the final file, a video titled For Jack, MP4, my name. I clicked it. The screen went black for several seconds, and then Alex's face appeared. Pale, sleepless, scared. Jack, he whispered. If you're seeing this, it means I've gone missing. Or worse. He glanced off screen nervously, then leaned closer. I found something. Something about your parents. You need to get out of the house. Do not, I repeat, do not confront them. They've been hiding something. I don't think they're who they say they are. He paused, his eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to believe it either, but the evidence is everywhere. I uploaded the links to a hidden site. It only opens if you search your last name through Tor. That's how they've been sharing it. It's like a digital trophy case. A loud sound off screen. Alex turned his head. Panic filled his face. They're here. The video cut off. Static. Then silence. My whole body shook. I wanted to throw up, scream, wake up, but there was no waking up from this. I ran out of Alex's house and bolted home. When I opened the front door, my parents were in the kitchen, calm, smiling. Hey, honey, my mother said cheerfully. You hungry? I couldn't even speak. I nodded numbly, pretending everything was normal. Because now I knew. They weren't just hiding something. They were hiding everything. That night, I didn't sleep. I pretended to. I lay under the covers with my back to the door, listening to the slow creak of footsteps outside my room, the quiet murmur of my parents talking downstairs. Every now and then, I heard drawers open, something metallic clink, a floorboard shift. They were awake all night. So was I. By 4 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I slipped out of bed like a ghost, careful not to let the old wood groan under my weight. I closed the door, stuffed a towel under the crack to block the light, and booted up my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keys. The room was cold. My breath fogged the screen. I opened Tor, turned on my VPN, typed in my last name. Nothing happened at first. A blank screen, white, with a single flickering cursor. I refreshed. Still nothing. I was ready to shut it down, thinking maybe Alex had gotten it wrong, or maybe they had already taken the site down. But then the screen glitched. Once, twice, then it loaded. Black background, red text, hundreds of links, each labeled only with a timestamp and a code. No titles, no descriptions, just files, videos, hundreds of them. They filled the page like a digital graveyard. I scrolled. The timestamps ranged from over 15 years ago to just a few days prior. The earliest ones were grainy, old footage. The newest looked recent, crystal clear, in 1080p, modern cameras, high-quality lighting. My fingers hesitated over the mouse. I knew what these were. I didn't want to confirm it. I could have backed out. I could have sent it all to the police and walked away. But Alex had watched. He'd known the truth. And he was gone. I clicked the first link. It took a minute to buffer. Then the screen faded in. A dimly lit basement. Cinder block walls. A wooden chair bolted to the floor, chains attached to the armrests. In the chair, a woman, gagged and trembling. Her eyes darted frantically, scanning the room. Then they walked in. My parents. My father wore gloves, a black apron. My mother was dressed in sterile white, holding what looked like a surgical tray. They didn't speak. They didn't hesitate. The woman tried to scream. My father picked up the knife. I slammed the laptop shut. My stomach churned. I ran to the bathroom and vomited into the sink, gripping the porcelain like it could hold my sanity together. My skin crawled with the memory of what I saw. No, not just what I saw, but what I now knew. My parents were murderers, cold, methodical, practiced. This wasn't a one-time snap of insanity. This was a ritual, an operation, something they'd done again and again across multiple towns, multiple lives, like changing outfits. I splashed cold water on my face. I stared at myself in the mirror, and for a moment, I swore I saw something else staring back. Not my reflection, but the shadow of the truth. They'd raised me, protected me, taught me how to ride a bike, how to tie my shoes, how to avoid strangers. And all that time, they were hiding bodies. When I opened the laptop again, the site was still there. I clicked on another video, this time muted, and scrubbed through it. Same room, same chair, same lighting, different victim. A man, middle-aged, face bloodied. I scrubbed again. Another victim, another time, same setup. It was like a signature. They wanted this to be seen. This wasn't just killing. This was documenting, broadcasting, archiving. But why? Who was watching? As I dug deeper, I found a section of the site that chilled me to the core. A comment board. Encrypted, anonymized, but readable. Hundreds of posts, praising the craftsmanship, rating the episodes. Some were bidding money, others were placing requests. The woman in 17B, I want to see her beg. Do one with fire next time. The couple in part 44 were too quick. Make the next one scream longer. These weren't just videos, they were performances, and my parents were the stars. I closed the tab and sat back, shaking. There was one last video file at the bottom with a different timestamp, Uploaded today, 04:22 a.m. It was 4:46 a.m. now. I clicked it. The video buffered, then opened to the same basement room, same lighting, same chair. This time, a figure sat in the chair with a burlap sack over their head. I didn't breathe. The camera stayed still. Then, slowly, my father stepped into frame. He was calm, focused. He reached forward and pulled off the sack. Alex. His face was bruised, lips swollen, eyes darting around. He was alive. I gasped, covered my mouth. He whispered something, but the audio was garbled. My mother entered behind him, holding a knife. Then, the screen went black. Error, file removed by host. I sat frozen in my chair, staring at the error message, heart pounding so loud I was sure it would wake the dead. They were still active, still filming, still killing. And they had Alex, somewhere in the same house, possibly under the very floors I'd walked on my whole life. There was a chamber of horrors, and my best friend was down there, alive, for now. I closed the laptop, packed it in my bag, snuck out the window. The first rays of sunlight touched the horizon as I stepped outside. I was going to save him, or die trying. The early morning air was damp and cold, like the breath of something ancient, watching me from the woods beyond our backyard. Dew clung to the grass as I crouched near the side of the house, backpack slung over one shoulder, sweat beading on my forehead despite the chill. Alex was still alive. But for how long? That video had been uploaded only 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes. Which meant he was here. Now. Somewhere under my feet, bleeding, terrified, strapped to that godforsaken chair while my parents played director and executioner. I had to move fast. I crept around the back of the house, avoiding the windows. The lights were still on in the kitchen. My father's shadow passed by, tall, straight-backed, carrying something metallic. My mother followed, humming softly, her lullaby, the same one she used to sing to me when I had fevers as a kid. I felt bile rise in my throat. When I was sure the coast was clear, I slipped through the garage door and gently closed it behind me. The overhead bulb flickered, casting strange shadows over their tool rack. Saws, hammers, thick plastic tarps, too many to be for just home maintenance. I checked the floor for a hatch, a panel, anything that didn't belong. Nothing. Then I remembered. The basement. Not the regular one where we stored Christmas junk and old furniture. The other one. The door hidden behind the water heater, sealed tight, which my dad had always told me was just a wall panel. Nothing behind there but mold, he once said with a chuckle. He lied. I moved quickly to the back of the garage. The air smelled sourer here, like mildew and copper. My fingers ran along the wooden panel behind the heater. I pressed at the seams, pushed against knots in the wood, until I heard it, click. The panel popped open half an inch. My heartbeat nearly exploded. I pulled it open carefully. Inside was a narrow staircase, descending into darkness. No light, no sounds, but something waited at the bottom. I felt it. I pulled out the flashlight I kept in my backpack for emergencies, clicked it on, and descended. The stairs were concrete, damp. With each step, I felt the temperature drop and the air grow heavier. The smell intensified. Rot, rust, and bleach. I covered my nose with my sleeve, swallowing hard. At the base of the stairs was a steel door with a keypad. No handle, no visible keyhole. Just the pad, blinking steadily. I tried numbers, my birthday, no, my mom's, No. Alex's? No. Then I tried the year we moved here. Beep, 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 click. The lock released. I pulled the door open and stepped inside. What I saw will follow me to the grave. The room was bathed in red emergency lighting. It buzzed faintly, casting long, unnatural shadows. The air was wet, heavy with blood, bleach, and something metallic I couldn't name. Tools lined the walls, hooks, chains, knives, bones, cleaned and sorted into labeled bins, and in the center of the room, the chair. He was there. Alex, strapped down, head slumped forward, a fresh gash across his cheek. His wrists were tied with wire, digging into his skin. He wasn't moving. Alex? I whispered, rushing forward. He flinched at the sound of his name. His eyes fluttered open. Jack? He croaked. Oh my God, you found me. I'm getting you out of here. I reached for the restraints. The wires were twisted tight, sealed with pliers. I started working on the knots with a pocket knife, hands shaking. They drugged me, he whispered. They were filming again. They said I was a special episode because I knew too much. He looked at me, tears mixing with blood. Jack, your parents. They've been doing this for decades. I know. I choked. I saw the site. I saw everything. I got the last wire loose and helped him up. His legs buckled. We don't have much time, I said. Can you walk? I'll crawl if I have to. Suddenly, a beep echoed through the room. Then another. Footsteps. They were coming. I yanked open the side door that led into the utility corridor. It was narrow, barely wide enough to fit us both. Pipes lined the ceiling. The door to the basement proper was ahead, but just as we reached the ladder up, the lights behind us flickered, then went dark. A voice echoed down the hall. My father's? Jack, you shouldn't be here. I froze. Alex whimpered. You were such a good boy. Obedient, curious. But now you've gone and ruined everything. Then my mother's voice, calm and cold. We were going to wait a few more years before introducing you to the family business. Footsteps. Closer. You could have been something great, Jack, my father said. We had plans for you. I didn't answer. I hauled Alex up the ladder. Every rung felt like a lifetime. My muscles screamed. He was bleeding, barely conscious. I got him to the trapdoor. Locked. No. I slammed my shoulder into it. Once, twice. From below, Jack. Open the door. Let's talk. I drove my shoulder into the trapdoor again. It cracked. On the fourth hit, it burst open. We tumbled into the pantry, the trapdoor hidden beneath a shelf that had been built to conceal it. I slammed it shut and dragged a heavy sack of rice over it, just as the first bang echoed underneath. They were trying to follow. I didn't wait. I dragged Alex through the house, out the back door, and into the woods. Behind us, the house stood still, silent, normal, like any other suburban home. But underneath, it was a slaughterhouse. We didn't stop running until the sun had risen fully, and the house was a memory behind the trees. We made it to the edge of town. I borrowed a stranger's phone and called 911. When the police arrived, we told them everything. They didn't believe us at first, until they opened the basement and saw. You'd think that would be the end of it. The moment the officers opened that basement door, when they saw the blood-slicked tools, the bone bins, the thick, soundproof walls, you'd expect everything to fall into place. My parents would be arrested. The videos would be exposed. Alex and I would be taken somewhere safe, offered therapy, protection, apologies. You'd think that, but monsters don't live in the shadows without insurance. And my parents, they weren't just murderers. They were planners. The moment the police descended into the basement with hazmat suits and floodlights, they started finding less. What had been a macabre chamber just hours ago was now a disturbingly clean cellar. The chains were gone, the blood scrubbed from the floor, the bone bins replaced with boxes labeled plumbing supplies. The air, that sick, copper-laced rot, had faded into something vaguely chemical, like bleach and lemon. They asked us questions, lots of them, and they wanted to believe us. The cuts on Alex's body were real. His state, dazed, bruised, terrified, couldn't be faked. The hidden trapdoor existed, and the narrow corridor behind it. But then came the excuses. Renovation materials, old storm shelter, stray dog attack. My parents were brought in for questioning, calm, cooperating. My mother even laughed softly when they asked about the basement. "Oh, that old thing? We didn't even know it still opened. We found it when we bought the place. Figured it was just some kind of bomb shelter." When the officers showed them the videos I had downloaded onto a USB drive, my father tilted his head and said gently, "This is doctored. Clearly some deepfake. Look at the lighting. Doesn't even match our house. Jack, why would you believe such filth?" They knew what they were doing, lawyered up before sundown, a whole team of them, all cold suits and rehearsed statements. By morning, they had completely flipped the narrative, traumatized teenager, radicalized online, possibly manipulated into fabricating evidence. That's what they told the press. Alex and I, we were moved into a juvenile protective custody unit while the investigation dragged on. We weren't allowed to talk to anyone without supervision. They said it was for our safety. They said there were too many eyes on the case now. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was the disappearance of evidence. The USB drive with the videos, it went missing from the evidence locker 2 days after the arrest. The tour site vanished, taken down, replaced with a 404, page not found. Even Alex's computer, the one filled with articles, links, and recordings, suddenly crashed beyond recovery when they tried to image it. Must have been infected, they said. Some kind of malware. We knew better. We weren't just dealing with killers. We were dealing with a network. Alex said it first, whispering in the bunk next to mine one night as rain battered the facility windows. "They're not alone," he murmured. "I've been thinking. The production value, the server infrastructure, the encryption, there's no way they did that by themselves." "They had help," I said, "or they are the help, part of something bigger, something global." We began writing things down, from memory, reconstructing the articles, the site layout, the order of videos, the timestamps. I drew the interface of the site from scratch. Alex began writing code that could be used to sniff out the hidden backend URLs again. But without access to the dark web from the facility's network, we were working in the dark. Still, the more we remembered, the more disturbing it got. There were patterns in the videos. Every victim tied to a time and a region, a schedule, one every 6 weeks, always in a different state, always someone unremarkable. No family, no loud online presence, people who could vanish without shaking the world. We started connecting the names of previous addresses my family had lived at with the crime scenes we could remember. It lined up too well. And then we hit something chilling. Every time we moved, my dad's job changed. But the employer's name didn't. Plumbra Tech Construction. Sounded harmless, a generic contractor name. But it wasn't real. No tax records, no phone number, no website. Alex remembered that one of the bones in the basement had a Plumbra Tech sticker on it, attached to a sealed plastic crate full of structural reinforcements. They were hiding the victims inside supply shipments, transporting them across the country as construction materials. My parents had found a way to kill people, film it, and erase every trace, aided by a company that didn't exist, or one that existed only for this. We needed help, but who could we trust? The local police were too easily swayed. The feds weren't even returning our calls. Reporters were calling it another case of TikTok-fed mass delusion. And every time we made noise, something bad happened. A nurse we trusted got reassigned. A printed report vanished. Our internet access was cut. We were being silenced. And the worst part, we knew they were watching us. Because a week into our custody, I got a letter. No return address. Just a short, handwritten note in the envelope. You're clever, Jack. But you're still our son. And sons come home eventually, Mom. Below that, drawn in red ink, was a heart. Just like the tattoo the neighbor had on her neck. The note was a death sentence written in cursive. I held it in trembling hands, trying not to breathe too loud, trying not to feel anything. But it was too late. The panic had already begun to rise, like black smoke choking out every rational thought in my mind. They knew where I was. They knew what I was doing, and worse, they were still in control. I showed the letter to Alex. His face turned pale, the color draining like ink dropped in water. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. We both knew what it meant. They hadn't been stopped. They had just paused. That night, we made our decision. We were going to disappear, just like they had taught us to. Getting out of the juvenile facility wasn't easy. It took 2 weeks of planning, timing, staff shifts, memorizing patrol routes, and stashing stolen supplies in vents and closets. Alex worked on a makeshift jammer, using smuggled parts from an old laptop and some discarded Bluetooth earpieces. I handled the social side, fake notes, distracted guards, casual smiles when needed. We picked the night of a thunderstorm. Perfect cover, limited visibility, reduced communication. At 2:37 a.m., we slipped through the east gate, climbed the rear fence using knotted bed sheets, and vanished into the downpour. No alarms, no screams, just 2 shadows running through mud and lightning, like ghosts fleeing the land of the living. We hid for days, first in an abandoned pump house by the river, then in the attic of a burnt-out church. I used what little money I had left from before the facility to buy burner phones, black hoodies, and bus tickets under fake names. We were going home, not because we wanted to, because we had to end it. The house was still there. Same bland siding, same flower beds of dead things, same wind chime on the porch, spinning softly, like nothing had ever happened, like no one had ever screamed here. We stood in the woods behind it, watching through binoculars. For 2 days, the lights stayed off. No cars came, no mail was picked up. It looked abandoned, but we knew better. Predators don't vanish. They stalk. They lurk. They wait. On the 3rd day, we saw movement. A silhouette passed behind the living room curtains. They were back. Alex and I didn't speak much. We operated like clockwork. Years of paranoia, fear, and obsession had carved our thoughts into matching shapes. At 3:12 a.m., we made our move. I picked the basement window lock using one of my dad's old screwdrivers. We slid in, quiet as whispers, landing on the dusty floor of the basement. Not the basement, but the regular one. We were heading deeper. The trapdoor was still there, beneath the pantry shelf, just as before. I pulled it open, and what I saw made my blood freeze. They had rebuilt it. New lights, new walls, same chair, same camera. But this time it was different, because this time it wasn't just a kill room. It was a studio. The floor was polished. The lights were stage quality. A curtain hung across one end of the room. A microphone was mounted above the chair. Soundproof tiles lined every wall, and on the chair, my stomach dropped. It was a mannequin, painted to look like me. Same haircut, same hoodie, same stupid scar on the eyebrow I got from falling off a bike in 5th grade. And around the neck, a sign. Final episode, Family Matters. Recording tomorrow. I stepped back, my legs nearly giving out. They weren't just continuing their work. They were making a show of it. They wanted to end it, theatrically, publicly, with me as the missing heir finally returning to his legacy. They had built this for me. "I'm going to burn this place to the ground," Alex whispered, voice shaking. "No," I said. "We're going to end it properly." We found the servers behind a false wall, a rack of drives, blinking silently. Rows and rows of data, footage, scripts, plans. Each file was labeled with a neat code, date, and victim name. It was all there. Proof. Horrifying, undeniable proof. I took out the USB we brought, this time triple encrypted and armed with a self-upload script. Once connected, it would send copies to multiple cloud backups under anonymous credentials we'd prepared. We plugged it in. The drives hummed. The files began to transfer. Then we heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Descending the stairs. Alex and I ducked into the shadows behind the curtain. Hearts pounding. Breath held. The trapdoor creaked open. A pair of boots thudded against concrete. Then another. They were both here. My mother spoke first. "I told you he'd come home." A pause. Then my father. He never could leave things unfinished. They walked around the room, inspecting the chair, the camera. I could see them through the gap in the curtain, smiling, calm. They were waiting. "I don't want to kill him," my mother said softly. "Then don't," my father replied. "Let him decide. If he wants to become one of us, we'll show him how. And if he refuses..." My father was silent. Then he pulled something from his coat. A syringe. Long, thick, full of something black. "I don't think he'll refuse." My lungs locked up. Alex's hand tightened on my shoulder. Then his phone vibrated in his pocket. Once. Upload complete. We stepped out of the shadows. My parents froze. "Jack," my mother said gently. "There you are." "We've been waiting," my father added. "Come, sit. Let's talk." "No," I said. I held up the phone, showing the transfer confirmation screen, the cloud logos, the email verification. "It's over." For the first time, I saw it. Fear in their eyes. But it lasted only a second. Then they charged. Time slowed. My mother lunged first, her fingers outstretched, reaching not for me, but for the phone. Her face was twisted in a grotesque mockery of love and fury. Eyes wide and locked on the glowing screen in my hand. Alex moved quicker. He swung a rusted metal pipe from behind his back, a relic we had pried from the basement plumbing minutes earlier, and cracked it across her shoulder. She shrieked and crumpled, hitting the concrete with a thud, but my father was already on me. His weight slammed into my chest, sending me backward into the chair, that chair, his knee pressing down as one gloved hand went for my throat. The other held the syringe. "You could have been so much more," he hissed, foam bubbling at the corner of his mouth. "You were ours." His voice was calm, measured. It didn't sound like a madman. It sounded like a father giving a lecture. I gritted my teeth and reached for the camera stand behind me. A long, sturdy rod bolted to the floor. I ripped it free and slammed it upward, catching him across the chin. He stumbled, the syringe skittering across the floor, spinning like a compass needle with no north. Alex leapt on him. They struggled. Fists, grunts, screams, until finally, Alex locked his arms around my father's neck in a chokehold. He held it with everything he had, body shaking, teeth clenched. "Jack," he wheezed, "the USB, it's still plugged in. We have to finish this." My mother was crawling across the floor toward a control panel built into the wall. Her fingers danced over the buttons, and suddenly, everything lit up. Spotlights, recording icons, microphones. The basement roared to life like a hellish movie set, and then the monitors blinked on. Dozens of live feeds, faces watching. Some wore masks, others didn't bother. Some were in suits, some in robes, others naked and expressionless, all watching, all waiting. A red light blinked above the camera. Liv. She was streaming it. They wanted this, a final act. A family reunion turned bloodbath. The prodigal son returning not to forgive, but to destroy. My father began to slump in Alex's arms, going limp. "I can't hold him much longer," Alex gasped. I grabbed the syringe, now resting under a table leg. I stood over my mother. She looked up at me, smiling through bloodied teeth. "Even now, you hesitate. You're not my mother," I said. "You never were." I plunged the syringe into her neck. She screamed, flailed, and then stilled. Whatever was in it worked fast. Her eyes glazed, her limbs jerked once, then fell still. My father broke free of Alex's grip and staggered to his feet, but his expression had changed. He wasn't angry or scared. He looked proud. "You've become exactly what we hoped," he whispered. I didn't answer. I hit the kill switch on the main terminal. The screens shut off. The lights died. The stream ended. Alex and I stared at the darkness. Our breaths loud. The silence louder. And then, from behind the control panel, a rumble. Something unlocking. A door. A vault. We turned toward the noise. Flashlights raised. A false wall was opening. Behind it was another room. We stepped inside. No blood, no bones. Just a server farm, humming, whirring. Rows of blinking blue lights. Each labeled Episode 1, 1989, Episode 2, 1990, Episode 217, Final, Scheduled. Each had a mirrored backup, and each file was tagged with GPS coordinates. Burial sites. We'd just found the archive. Everything. Every kill, every victim, every location, every sin. We uploaded it all. This time to public servers, to whistleblower sites, to journalists, to encrypted drop boxes with dead man switches. We did it from 5 locations over the next 3 days, hopping buses and Wi-Fi networks like hunted animals. By the end of the week, it had gone viral. Suburban slaughterhouse. Serial killer couple documented over 30 years of murders. Dark web execution ring exposed. Anonymous source drops 200 plus videos of torture and murder. My parents were dead, but the system they were part of, very much alive. The FBI came knocking, Interpol, even cyber task forces from overseas. Everyone wanted a piece of the horror. They asked where the house was. We told them. When they got there, it was gone, burned to the ground. Foundation cracked open like a split jaw. No bodies, no basement, no remains. It had been cleaned, professionally, efficiently, almost like it had been scheduled. Alex and I knew then. My parents were only the faces of the operation, not the heads. Someone had watched that final stream, and someone had issued a command: erase everything. But we were already ahead. The files were out. The truth was loose. The world was watching now, and even the darkest web can't hide from the light forever. Epilogue. It's been a year. Alex is in hiding. I move every few months. We use new names, fake IDs, cash-only transactions. But even now, sometimes, I hear a chime in the wind, see a van parked too long outside a motel, notice an envelope with no return address. They're still looking, still watching. But so are we. And we're not running anymore. We're hunting. Because this isn't just about revenge. It's about justice. It's about burning the network down, file by file, video by video, name by name, until there's nothing left but ash